Your pen goes missing just when you need it. A lighter disappears into the ether when you just had it in your pocket. Your favorite horse breaks its leg in the last leg of a race. You're about to pay that mob boss what you owe him from betting on the horse race, and you reach in, and there's a hole in your pocket. Your money fell out. And just like your horse, your leg is now broken. But just like the last time, you'll head back to the track because rent is due, and you'll never learn. After all, you still have one other leg that works because you never heard the tales of the tricksters.
I didn't see you there.
It all started early this morning.
From hunting ghosts to Bigfoot, UFOs,
Cryptids, true crime, paranormal, and more.
I've always wanted to see a UFO.
Oh, I was researching for your entertainment.
That's Bigfoot's guy.
He basically wrote the book on modern cult.
We aren't really comedians.
What if Buddha did cocaine?
The Addams Family on meth. This is the Black Cat Report.
See you on the other side.
Good evening and welcome to this special episode mashup of the Black Cat Report and Paranorm Girl Podcast. I am ecstatic today because I get to introduce two people I deeply respect, love, and think are probably some of the best people to ever walk this flat earth. First off, I'm going to introduce the pleasing and handsome, capricious in behavior, cunning and guileful, Gil.
Hello. Thank you for such a warm and wonderful introduction.
And it is my most pleasureful ecstasy to introduce the enchanting in movement, the beautifully beguiling in speech, the divinely mesmerizing Kristen.
Well, thank you, Joey, and thank you, Gil and Joey, for doing this collab. I've really been excited about this and this subject in particular to dig into it with you guys. I am so glad we did this.
Yeah, hell yeah. Kristen is the sole host, writer, producer, marketer, owner, and general all-around badass of Paranorm Girl Podcast. And if you haven't followed yet, now's the time to do it. Just do it. It's real easy. Just hit follow, like, and subscribe on the Paranorm Girl Podcast wherever you're listening to this. Right?
Thanks, man. Yeah. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. You just do everything. Me and Gil separate everything we do. So it's like, you're basically double, but quadruple the double of me and Gil.
Yeah,
like
but
times? Is that 8?
Hey, it's worth it to do it the way that you guys do it because I'm actually 25 and I doubled in age. Just I wake up feeling like I've run over by a truck every morning. It's a lot. It's a lot for one person. But thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, we're gathering here as a special mashup today because we got intrigued by the idea of trickster gods and the idea of tricksters in general from a past episode Gil himself had researched and narrated for the wonderfully amazing El Pombero. And if you haven't listened to that episode yet, it is episode 127. You can take a listen right now. Well, a little later, but no. For today, we brought Kristen on to discuss the trickster god and goddess or spirit phenomenon. We'll be going through a few of the tricksters themselves and maybe at the end comparing and contrasting their role and even some of their likenesses across eras and locations. Tricksters in themselves, what I like to call outlaws. And I want to see if you guys can go along with me on this, right? So let's see. I feel like they're outlaws because in a sense they just stayed right outside of societal norms and societal laws. And they're constantly pushing boundaries to see if they can bend or break those boundaries, just like Gil did back in the day. And still does today. Okay, no, I'm not supposed to say that. No. You know, Gil
with 2 L's.
Gil with 2 L's. You know, if I were to say that you were any trickster, I would say you would probably be Loki. Just it's an easy one to do. It's because, and that's why I used the description of Loki to describe you in the intro. Because I felt like
thank you so much. I feel honored. I'm more of a pan man, but that's just me. You know.
Well,
But Loki's, I accept Loki
Loki's
with
awesome.
grace.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, Loki's the shit. I just something about Pan. I don't know. Maybe it's because like my arch nemesis is goats. That I just kind of have this like,
yeah.
But that's how you manifest your trickster spirit, is you kind of have to love and appreciate something that you hate. You know what I'm saying? Like it has to be both ends.
Oh,
of
that's
it,
right.
so.
You hate goats. That came up in the last
Fucking hate them.
Brinkley
Fucking
episode.
hate them. Yeah, not a fan. Not a fan. But I
Hair-
appreciate it.
Hair
Loki.
and food. That would be my nemesis. That's it. I don't know how that trickster
You don't
would
like
look.
hair and food, or hair in food?
Kristen,
Hair in food. How does it always
Okay.
find its way into food? It's the
Kristen's
trickster doing
spiritual
it.
entity is a 7-Eleven food selection.
Do they have 7-Eleven in where you are?
Me? No. That was gosh, I haven't seen a 7-Eleven since I was in California. Actually.
Do they have the come and goes out there?
No, we've got the what's it called? No news? No-nos? I don't know. There's a
No-nos?
weird one. Sounds poo-poos? I can't remember.
I think it's poo-poos.
It's a chain.
I feel like it's poo-poos.
I'm gonna call it
Yeah.
poo-poos. And they do have hair in their in their hot dogs.
Garfield and Leslie.
And it's not like face hair or
It's a
top of head
mystery.
hair.
It's a
chest
mystery.
hair. Chest hair that's on there.
Yeah. Doesn't matter at that point. Yeah.
Ew, yeah, it's just not good.
I will say, Joey, just because I'm excited about what you're saying about going with the outlaw thing, that is goddamn near universal when it comes to tricksters, in terms of almost always being a symbol of rebellion in whatever country they're in. So when revolutions, insurrections, things like that pop off, it's super common for resistance groups to adapt the imagery of tricksters. And like as a role in society, they almost always question like the establishment of authority and push boundaries. So it's like being super profane and being very immature, but also being wise at the same time, and like incredibly knowledgeable, but sounding like a moron. Again, that's a goal that I have for myself. But
Well, on your way.
Yes. Just slowly start sprouting goat legs below the camera. But does anybody else want to play flute? But no, it's Tricksters are awesome. Tricksters are awesome. I don't know. I'm excited to get into this, Joey. I'm very fucking stoked. I've been like for weeks, ever since Kristen first brought up the idea during our premiere of El Bombero. Kristen, you messaged me like, I want to do a collab episode with you about Tricksters. Jesus Christ, hell yeah! How soon can we do it? I've just been like, yes. I'm stoked, buddy. I'm stoked to get in.
Yeah. Can we start? Do you want to start with something? Throw us a bone, Joey, and then we'll launch off there. Because I think all three of us are going to be attacking this in different ways. So
yeah, I can
excited to get into the evolution. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you kick us off?
Well, give me a minute.
Oh, well, okay. While you're doing that, yeah, El Bombero. That was such a neat moment that I was like, oh my god, we got to do a Trickster episode, because El Bombero. Listening to you guys go through this episode, and I'm not going to give anything away because everybody needs to go watch it. Episode 102, 107. It's recent. It's very.
It's the only one that says El Bombero. The title is Kidnapped by a Cryptid. El Bombero.
Yeah. It's very, very recent. Just go take a look at their channel. But listening to this description of this creature, which I'd never heard of, I didn't know what El Bombero was. Listening to this description, it was like, oh my god, that sounds so familiar. What is with this pattern? Like, it sounds just like Bigfoot to me. And it was matching these like pattern for pattern. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I started thinking, and I was like, people have equated Bigfoot to, it does some weird things that falls in line with the trickster. And oh my gosh, what if El Bombero is Bigfoot? What if they're all, what's going on? Is this a trickster? We got to do it. So that's where I'm coming from. Yeah. Nice. We're going to investigate, explore.
heck?
I 100% want to go to. So say they're all related, right?
Mhm.
I want
Distant
to go
cousins.
to a trickster wedding. Holy shit! Can you
Ooh.
imagine that after party?
Off
Just like
Wild.
the
all
hook.
the tricksters hanging out together. Yes. They just like and with these vows I say, divorce, surprise, motherfucker. It's just like, oh, it was a divorce the whole time. You got us.
Or what if they just all played tricks on you because you're the only non-trickster? So like everybody ganged up on you. I mean, you're a trickster for sure in real life. Like if there was an embodiment of a
Aw,
spirit,
thank you,
it
buddy.
would be you. But what if they all ganged up on you? You know, how would you
I would
feel
love
about
it.
that? Yeah.
I would love it. I would absolutely love it. And also Donut in our chat pointed out an excellent idea, saying, or made a great point saying, I would go to a trickster bonfire masquerade, which Jesus Christ, if
Oh
I had enough friends
man.
locally, we would have one of those.
We're getting so
That sounds
bohemian,
fucking
man.
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so
Hell
here
yeah.
for it. Hey, Jaden.
Mm-hmm. Welcome all. Well, tricksters in themselves genuinely could be really cunning, or in some stories, be very, 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 very gullible. Take, for example, the story of Laverna, who was the Roman goddess of thieves, cheats, liars, and fraudsters. Laverna promised a priest who was selling his estate that in exchange for the estate, she would build a temple on the land. But instead, Laverna sold everything on the estate and, of course, did not build a temple. When the priest went back to look for Laverna, she was gone. And when she did it to another person, those victims, Laverna's trickery, came and asked the gods for help. The gods brought Laverna before them and asked why she did not uphold the agreement. Laverna made her body disappear, leaving only her head, and yelled, "Behold me! I swore my body, but body have I none." And the gods got really confused because Yoda and Star Wars had not been released yet after that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sorry. Not supposed to make jokes when I'm writing the script, but I try anyways.
No, it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
Good job. Good job.
Well, on the other side of it, they could also be very gullible, and the trick was always ending on them. The coyote spirit of the Hopi was generally viewed as the gullible trickster. The coyote was getting into many adventures, which end up serving as moral teachings for either social interaction or etiquette. And just as we said above, the trickster would be kind of outside the societal norms in order to kind of establish the boundary between what is acceptable and what is not. And a lot of the indigenous tribes use tricksters instead of saying that their morality is bad, they'd use it to say that they're like to teach lessons and that they're above, so we don't really understand what they're doing. Like basically like a god looking down on us. Coyote itself would get tricked and defeated by the animals it would interact with due to its greediness, recklessness, or its disobedience, right? So that's kind of what coyote would happen. There's also some stories of the coyote being the non-gullible one, being the tricker, but it's not as prevalent as the Hopi versions of it. Well,
Do you mind if I point out a little fun fact about
always.
coyotes?
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually, I went down a rabbit hole the other day, learning about coyotes, and there's a fun little thing that they do. So over, thousands of years of living incredibly close to humans and like human settlements and stuff, but never quite allowing themselves to become domesticated, they've picked up a lot of very interesting tricks. And this is actually a survival tip for folks because coyotes, fun fact, are in every single city within the United States. You might not see them, they exist. They live in packs, they run around neighborhoods. Coyotes, go look up the territory of coyotes, and it's cities that you would not expect. Like LA has like a huge problem with coyotes right now. Like in downtown, like they're everywhere. But
Wow.
with them being so close and so far, classic trickster behavior, they've learned to do a couple of things, and these are warning signs for you. Seriously, like I'm not even making a joke here. So they'll pretend to be domesticated. They'll pretend to be all cute and like loving up against you in order to lead you to a spot where they will literally attack you and try to kill you or eat you. So
heard
they will
that.
go up and be like, "Oh, hi. oh, yes, I do love when you rub my haunch. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, chin scratches. It's been so long. Hey, do you want to come over here? I found something cool." And then they'll just murder your ass. So that's one trick that they are known for doing to people. So this is like an actual, if you're out at the park or you're out and you're like, oh God, it's a coyote. And then you're like, oh, wait, oh, it's acting so cute. Oh, it must be somebody's pet. Don't fall for that shit. Seriously, this is a survival tip. Another thing they'll do is pretend to be injured
Yep.
and play on people's sympathy in order to injure the person. So, like, I'm just saying, very fitting for a trickster to like that's solid survival advice. If you're out in the woods and you're like, yeah, it's a coyote, she'd be like, wait a second, notorious tricksters. I'm not falling for that shit, but I will give you some chin scritches, but not too many. Like,
right. Humanity recognizes this type of behavior so easily. And like it is an archetype, like Jung, pegged it as one of the archetypes. But it is also so fitting too that was this the Cherokee? Coyote was Cherokee's
Hopi.
trickster? Hopi, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean it was pretty much most of the southern
Was it? Okay.
southern indigenous tribes, but
Okay, yeah, it's just so so fitting for them to put this archetype, this character onto that particular creature because they recognized that behavior. They recognized it. It was already, the trickster was already there. That thought of that set of behaviors. Yeah. Interesting.
And I wonder how much as Joey goes through the stories that he's about to deliver, I wonder how many of these things kind of, is it the chicken or the egg kind of thing? Is it a
Right.
recognition of a trickster-like entity, being, essence, whatever? There's a million terms for it. Is there a recognition of that? And then in order to teach children about that, you say, look at the coyote, look at this, because it's so common for folks to compare stuff that it might be complex, but has a broader, an overarching moral or like lesson to it, to compare it to something in nature, right? Like we have phrases like that all the time, the thunder before the storm, or like where there's smoke, there's fire. Like we do these types of things. We come up with these analogies all the time. And I wonder how many times it's like, oh, the coyote became the trickster god, or the trickster god that everybody was aware of just really fit with the behavior, and it was a great way to kind of teach folks and like basically kill two birds with one stone, where you're like, also watch out for them, but also there's this god out there that you need to be careful about. Like, I don't know.
Or to help people conceptualize that god. Yeah. Go ahead, Joy.
And you, Kristen, you mentioned Jungian, like the theory behind it. He was old when he came up with these things. So why did they call him Carl Jung?
Ooh. Jaden got you on that. Jaden earlier said, impossible challenge. Joey goes 30 seconds without saying a joke.
I lost. Thank you, Jaden, for the challenge.
Love you, Joey.
Yeah, you know what? Gotta add some laughter to myself.
Keep them coming. No, keep them coming.
Joey's just over there like, somebody's got to make me laugh.
You just did. Good job, Gil. That was a nice one. Kristen made me laugh earlier. She had a good one. So, alrighty, let's hop right into these trickster gods, goddesses, and spirits.
Keep them coming.
Yeah. So the first trickster we're going to talk about today is Velys. Velys, I don't know if you guys know who Velys is. Veles. Okay. Chose this one because there isn't actually a whole lot written about Velys, and most of it is actually just from spoken tales. Velys, the god, serves as a duality between societies, right? So the earliest written reference to Velys was in the Rus Byzantine Treaty of 971 AD. in which signers swore by Veles's name, kind of like how we swear on the Bible and God's name when we testify in court. Veles was associated with the Russo-Slavic area of Europe, which is basically where modern-day Slovakia, Romania, Ukraine, and southwestern Russia. So it's in that Baltic area, that little area down there.
The best place to buy an AK-47 from. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. Veles supplies and delivers.
Why do you know that? Go on.
Yeah. Next story. No, I'm kidding. That was literally the whole story. The AK-47.
So abrupt.
He was the AK-47.
I was just getting sucked into Veles.
So, all right. So with Veles, so we're in the Slovakian regions and stuff, and you said folks they signed this treaty or this trustees or whatever, they signed it to his name, and so they were swearing an oath, or they were basically saying it was their generation's version of being on God, that's what was happening here. So this had to be pretty widely accepted for this to make it into pseudo legal documents at the time. Is there were you able to find any depictions, early coins, or say shields or something like that, anything associated with, because if it's that big of a deal, I feel like it'd be popping up symbolically,
There was a few early depictions. This is also, if we think about it, it's just before Christianity hits Russia and that area. So it's just before that Christianity was brought over there. So this is paganism. This is their style of paganism and witch gods, because there's a bunch of gods. Veles is one of the many. As we talk about, every other culture around this time has a bunch of gods, basically describing how they understand what's going on in the world. And that's another part about the trickster gods. It's an ability to let them understand what's going on in the world. Right. Mm-hmm. Now, the duality of Veles is that Veles is also associated, as well as being a trickster, but associated with poetry and wisdom, and as well as being the Lord of Waters, oceans, seas, ships, and whirlpools. Veles is also the hunter and protector of cattle, which is just add another, little star to Veles's name, little title.
They had the most random gods back in the day. It's you are the gods of cats and missing socks.
Yeah.
They just needed to put something in to fill the hole.
They write and they're like, man, I almost got to the end of the page. And the leader of cattle.
You are the god of running out of room at the end of a page and having to write really tiny at an upward angle. Yeah.
Well, on the other side of this, he is also the god of the underworld. So basically, he's, in the Christian terms, he's the devil, or in the Greek terms, he's Hades. So
the god of burgers and burning. Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I like it.
As Velys is the god of the underworld, is more of the normal trickster we're kind of used to hearing about, right? Not the god of poetry, wisdom, Lord of Waters, more of the god of the underworld. Using trickery, he would drag souls down to the underworld after they had passed away. And depictions of Velys vary a lot amongst the culture, amongst the little tiny regions. In Russo, Byzantine area, differentiated, and the small West, the Yugoslavia, Serb, Slovenia area. I think it's not Slovenia, Slovakia area. All little different things about it. Some of them depicted as him just being a bald human male, sometimes with bull horns on his head. Actually, if you want to think of it, he kind of had the bull horns trying to think of the god that had bull horns.
Minotaurs, or
kind of like a minotaur, I guess, right? With a bald head.
Okay.
All I'm picturing right now.
I mean,
is
a lot of things have horns. Yeah.
That's right. It's not just one guy that I can think of. It's a lot of.
All I'm picturing is movie night last night with Tokyo Gore Police.
Yeah.
The chief who had the giant horns.
Yeah. Well, and the creationist side of the story, because it's really, there's, most of these tricksters have two sides of it, different sides of how they were created. In the creationist side of the story, he is shown as a huge dragon lying in a nest of black wool or black fleece beneath the world tree. And Gil, is part of the, what is it, protector of cattle and everything around sheep, goats as well. Seeing that this dragon killed a bunch of goats probably makes you happy.
Yeah, I'm generally on the trickster side. This makes sense.
This is Velys and his evolution. They turned him into a dragon. Like, this is part of the evolution here.
It's just different cultures.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
different cultures view him in different ways, and how they created. How one of them was like, he's a creator, and we'll see this in the indigenous stories too. One of them says that he's a creator, and another one's just like, no, he's just like a fat, bald, horned human. Like he's one of us. Thinking of it like
he's just fat, bald, and horny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I would say that he is almost the literal amalgamation of Loki and Hades mixed together from Greek and Norse mythology. Because like Hades, he was thrown down into the underworld after trying to kidnap the Mokash, the goddess of summer, who is also, there's a lot of name dropping here, the consort of Perun, who is basically Odin. I'm trying to compare so people can understand like who they are in the story. Perun is Odin, right? The leader, and actually Perun is also the god of thunder, which is the same thing. So it's like
real confusing real quick.
Yeah, they're not too super far from each other, and I imagine the Vikings came down a little bit. I don't know, maybe it's around this time, maybe a little earlier. I don't know time periods anymore, but time isn't real. Well,
yeah. Go ahead.
They basically battle underneath a huge oak tree, and Perun, the god of thunder, wins and casts him down into the underworld. So this is like the origin story of how he becomes the boss of the underworld. He goes, give me some mozzarella, and then he becomes mob boss of the underworld.
Makes sense. This tracks.
Yeah. Sorry. I've been watching The Sopranos, and I'm kind of just, getting into my roots.
Never seen it. I gotta watch it. Never seen even one.
Well, it's just a lot of sex, a lot of boobs, because he's always in a strip club. Yeah, and then he's killing people.
Cool.
And then he's in therapy. So it's like that, again, duality, You see this duality of him, like you just watch him in therapy, and the next scene he's at a strip club, and then next he's having sex with some random girl that you just came on the screen randomly. And then you're like, cool, this is a...
He just does it
like
over and over
Tricksters.
and over again. Just a vicious circle. Mm-hmm.
And isn't that how we all live?
That's life, baby.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get out more.
So did Veles.
So, right. So we got Velys with various different depictions across the regions. I would imagine that these depictions kind of got muddled up, mixed up, maybe altered from being fairly uniform after Christianity came in and made talk or any sort of representation, right? Well, I mean, this is just what has happened a million and one times, sadly, as Christians came in, did their best to just slash and burn people's cultures, right? And then use the ashes as fertilizer for their own mutated versions of Christianity, depending on the region. So there might have been other gods, would be my first take. Is there might have been other gods, and then over time, generationally, since people can really talk with their neighbors because they might get snitched on and reported to the Christian police, these things get mixed up over time. Like families might call them Velys, but then at the same time, nobody's openly talked about Velys in 20, 30, 40 years, and so they become these little niche stories, and then all of a sudden
Mhm.
it just starts adapting and filling in roles everywhere, and then before you know it, you have the god of cats and missing socks, like at the end of the day.
You do.
And are you presenting this right now as it was this like the earliest kind of depiction or concept of like a trickster god that there is that's on record?
There there have been through time. This is the earliest that I could find, as a with a lot of information, I would say, with enough information to put in part of an episode, I guess is the way to say it.
Mhm.
A lot of them, again, like this is one of those that's passed down through, a lot of them are just passed down through stories. And without a lot of written evidence, it's hard, like you just said, it's hard to not go, well, was this repurposed? And they started as one thing, but
Right.
then you start seeing them rotated into different, like, you know, this one has like 7 different responsibilities is what I'll call the things. Yes, they just get so many responsibilities, tricksters. That's why they get so tricky. But it's the earliest I could find with decent enough information to
Right.
understand, like, okay,
Right.
this is a person.
Yeah.
Velys did also even extend himself into today, and just like Gil was talking about, and he just feels like he reads my scripts and then just goes, you know what, he reads my mind, because Velys was repurposed to be either, he got repurposed to 2 different things, but to be either the devil, which he kind of, it was a little bit of tricksterish, which if we look in Christian iconography, most of the trickster gods turn into the devil. Christianity kind of goes, this is devilish behavior, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's interesting because Satan, or if we consider the devil and Satan to be the same, Satan, that was actually a note I made earlier today. Satan is like a famous trickster, matches tons of the traits of this entity, whatever this thing is, this concept. That's Satan, baby. So Velys became the devil. Okay.
Yeah. What's crazy too is that when Vladimir the Great brought Christianity to Russia, which is not too far after the first written signing, I think it was 971. Let me make sure, because 971, I was correct. Vladimir the Great brought Christianity to Russia in 988. He created and kind of mirrored Velys with the idea of a saint, Saint Vasily, who is depicted in Russian iconography surrounded by sheep, cows, and goats, which is he's a leader of the cattle, of hunting and protecting. So it kind of is like they took both sides of it, and we're like, Christianity went, okay, here's the good sides, let's take that, and here's the bad side, we're just going to slash them and use them.
Yeah, and that Christian co-opting is that's just conversion 101.
That was across the board for
every crusade. Yeah, just like co-opt the hell out of whatever the hell's there. Like anything that's deeply rooted or could be kind of twisted. And it's just like, we're just gonna co-opt this, and it's gonna be the Christianity's local flavor,
Once you start reading into that, it's just like this moment over and over again, like, are you fucking kidding me? Seriously? Because it's so like, once you can see like, oh, this was the old version and then this is the Christian version. It's like, oh, come on. Like, you couldn't even change the one thing. You couldn't change it enough that I wouldn't recognize it. Like, but you don't know that until you look at it.
Christ might be the greatest trickster of all. That's all I'm saying.
Man, I was just about to say that. It's true. To add to this, right? So we use the phrase put someone out to pasture, right? We're putting an animal, put a person out to pasture. They're retiring, or I don't know. In the end of it, you're going to die. I don't know. It's don't really use it as going to die, but use it as you're retiring nowadays. Well, remember the idea that he was the protector of cattle and and the hunter of cattle. So in the Slavic and Baltic Russo area during that time, it literally means somewhere you go after death, because when they died, they went out to pasture. It didn't say out to pasture. It's like out to the fields. I picture it as, in Gladiator, that scene when Marcus Aurelius is dying and he dreams of walking through the fields of grain and the pasture, meeting his wife and kids again. That's kind of the idea that this Velys would put forth, is that you're going out to pasture with the animals, which is like living in like, it's a beautiful afterlife. Even though he was the god of the underworld, it wasn't like a fiery brimstone underworld like we think of, like Christianity has brought to us. Well,
Okay.
Well, thank you for lifting the Velys on that.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to drop into our second trickster for today. Walking past Gills. Nice little pun. We're going to travel just a bit southwest to go down to the continent of Africa, specifically in the country of Ghana, where the trickster Anansi originated. Anansi, the name itself. Anansi, the name itself, was derived from the Akan, I think it's Akan, word for spider. I want to apologize for all of the things that I'm pronouncing incorrectly. I've looked them up. Not as
Anasasi?
It's hard. The Akan, Anansi. I think it's Anansi. I think it's Anansi too. There's different pronunciations for all of these gods from different areas.
Poltergeist, potato. It's the same thing.
Yeah. It's
go
funny
with your gut, Joey.
Yeah, it's
Go with
funny
your gut.
looking at all of these tricksters, and then like we talked about with the culture and how much they like change over the different cultures. Their names change the tiniest of bits because, different languages, of course, in smaller regions. So you're just like, I don't know what to call you. I'll call you what I saw you on Google, and the most that came up the most in the Google hits. So I feel like that's the best way to go. Correct me if I'm wrong, please.
So Anansi. Yes.
Anansi.
Okay. I was just reading. I assumed it was a she. I might be wrong, but I was just reading about this god, and it's like a giant spider.
Giant spider. That's one of the ways it's depicted. Mm-hmm.
Why have a god that's a spider? Why choose that?
It's. I would say it's not okay. So this is semantics, right? So it's Anansi in a lot of stories is not a god. It's like I would say more of a spirit. It's like a in between, and they say it in a lot of the stories. It's the in between the gods and people, and so it's like the mixture. It was like a messenger in a lot of ways. It does godlike things, which is very interesting in some of the stuff I've read. And some of the stories, because it's a million different little regions around there having tiny bit different stories. Some of them had it as a god. Most of them had it as just like a messenger between, even though it was like a spider,
Right. Okay. But it was between like the god, this level between the gods and then humanity, like an angel or the jinn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
If you've ever read the Silmarillion, it's getting real nerdy here. There's the top, which is the why can't I remember the name? Manwë, and the Manwë is basically the top of it, and then you go down, and right beneath that is the mayor, which is like Gandalf, Saruman, and stuff like that. So like the second level, they're the Istar, which is the wizards, the second level of it. They're kind of there. So that's what I would say Anansi is, like a second level. Like you said, the jinn, like right below the angels.
Okay.
That's kind of what Anansi is. Some, like K-Booz had just said, some stories depict Anansi as a spider. The spider in this term has a human face, which is just like, ugh. I don't like that. That just makes it weirder. Some of them have him with a human, like just as a human, normal, with 8 legs. So like some of the depictions of them have 8 legs, and it's just like, what is that? Or like it didn't explain, and it didn't show pictures if the legs were human legs of 8 legs or if they were spiders of 8 legs.
Damn.
You know what I mean? Like spider spindly legs.
Or if it was human legs and it just looked really, really whack and crazy. That was an angel. They all looked crazy.
The creepiest of them.
Biblically correct angels were not any better.
Well, One of the stories associated with Anansi, and probably perhaps the most well-known story, is a story that Anansi itself allowed us to have. This makes sense a little later.
Makes
That
sense.
sounds weird.
Yeah. PR team. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, they're good marketers. So, before time, the distant way back in the day, there were no stories, right? This is a interesting concept. Yeah, this is the concept.
Okay. We're dealing with the concept. I thought you were stating a matter of fact. I was like, what? Mind blown.
It's like the tree falls in the forest is if anyone's around to hear it. No stories if you can't tell them.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. All the stories at the time were owned by the sky god, Nayame. Anansi, jonesing, I added that word in myself, for some stories, decided to try and buy the stories from Nayame. But Nayame laughed. Nayame is the sky god for the Akan people, basically like the big cheese, the big over top, the Odin, so to speak, of everybody.
Yeah.
The
For
Zeus.
tier.
Mm-hmm. Well, Nanze said that he would pay anything. So Naomi, kind of joking, gave Anansi 4 near impossible tasks, right? And so this is also kind of like other stories as well. They have many impossible tasks, kind of like all the all the old like Brothers Grimm stories back in the day too. You have all these tasks you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Nanze would have to catch 4 of the most dangerous creatures in the world. The Onini, the python, don't know if I said that correctly, Mumboro hornets, and if you know hornets, impossible to catch, Osebo the leopard, and the fairy Memotia. So, a lot of hard words. Anansi agreed, but the Nayame made another demand. Anansi would have to bring his mother, Yanisia, with him to do this. It's just like, wow, cool. Bring your mom. You're not cool enough. You're not good enough. So Anansi did what any other good person would do and asked his wife to come along too and help. Well, to make this longer story shorter, because it is a very long story and I don't want to go through all of it here, Anansi used trickery and guile to capture each of the 4 creatures and brought them back to Nayame. And then Nayame said, well, you did that, so I can't say no. Was laughing about it, basically. Like, I didn't even believe you were going to do that. Here's the stories. And now, the theory behind it is that now we can all enjoy all of the stories. And that is one of the myths, the folklore behind Anansi.
Okay. So Anansi is considered like kind of like a trickster entity because of the way that they attack their assignments, like
Their
what
tasks,
they were supposed to.
yeah.
Their tasks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah. So the task basically was like, would go to the hornets and was like, hey, hornets, it's about to rain. And they were all out, flying around as hornets do, attacking people, and was like, hey, this is about to rain. I got a place for you guys to go. Like, you can come. I have this little thing, said like a pot. It was some kind of pot, and was like, you guys can stay in here, like in this pot, until it finishes raining. And they're
hurry.
like, oh, yeah. They're like, oh God, it's going to rain. And so they got in there. He's like, gotcha.
Okay.
His wife's just in the background with tinfoil, like, whoa.
Yeah. The best team ever. Yeah. Real power couple. Mm-hmm. Well, adding into this, because this started in Ghana, right? And this started in that area of the world. Once the African slave trade pretty much started to wreak havoc on the tribes in that area, they used some of the tales as Anansi to develop their own ideals. And this is exactly what Gil was saying earlier with resistance. Because so many people were being taken as slaves, it allowed them a blueprint for the idea of resistance. And Gil just, threw it out there because he's a genius with this, with knowing how this script is written. Which then leads Anansi to the aforementioned idea that Anansi is an outlaw, which I'm coming back to because I just bring all these trickster gods back to being outlaws. Anansi allowed African American people who were taken as slaves to dream of turning the tables on their oppressors by using cunning and trickery, the same way that Anansi did in the four trials. Even if some of the physical part of revolting didn't always happen, it did happen as well, and they used those. I think it gave them sort of an other world to go to just to get by as well. It wasn't just a physical, it was also a mental part of tricksters that allowed them to use it. They would also use it as real life applications to understand their behavior, basically using behaviors to start to get like what is it called, to gain the upper hand in the plantation power structure. And I didn't make that up. That was actually written about in a book. Try to find the actual person who wrote that. I'm not smart enough to think of that, but it's true. Sorry, this was written by, never mind, what am I doing?
A guy.
A
What's
really
some other
smart
time?
guy.
Dude.
Yeah. I'll list it in
It
the
was the
show notes,
Anansi.
but
Yeah, Anansi's PR team. This is, I don't know. So this brings up, you kind of just touched on a point in a general sense that I had written down here, something that I did want to kind of talk over a little bit. Like tricksters, trickster entities, trickster spirits, gods, what have you. But there's a handful of things that they kind of like universally can get applied to them, where it's like there's a few outliers where it's like this trickster entity over here doesn't have that or isn't known for that. But for the most part, there is like, I would say like a good 70 to 85% like fitting description for most tricksters across cultures, centuries, and just like experiences, human experience, right? Like it feels like everybody everywhere, no matter how connected they are, kind of all settle on these same 75-80% of similarities when it comes to tricksters. And one of those things, one of those hallmarks is being a shapeshifter. That just across the board, right? Sometimes the shapeshifters, the essence or the powers that they have, right? The abilities, it can be full on like, they can shapeshift into anything. They can sound like anyone. They can imitate anything. It's just complete copy and paste of whatever they're trying to imitate or become. Other times it'll be tricksters where they can transform into, birds and frogs specifically, but generally speaking, shapeshifters a thing. And I think that it's fascinating too, because going back to the cultural level, right, in terms of how societies adopt in times of need, right? Tricksters, right? In terms of, we're going to take a different lesson from that. We're going to stop fearing it and we're going to start embracing certain qualities, right? Tricksters themselves as entities, they shapeshift within society's eyes. And it's so fucking fascinating to see that, right? Where it's like you have this external entity, but the actual lessons go from we should fear them to we should use them to impose fear on our enemies. Hey, and
the
like
trickster
how
becomes
they, and it's
what it is
they
that
literally
you need, right?
They shapeshift their own status, right? Which is so fucking fascinating to me, because there's this concept of like, it is external, it is real, it is, living, breathing, walking, transitioning through dimensions, what have you, but also as a, I don't know, an ideology, as a belief system, right? It just, everything just kind of like shifts with them. And it's, God, I fucking love that, because literally it went from being like, hey, it's a part of the creation story and it's a part of this and it's bad and it's not, we should kind of be worried about it, to being like, this is how we're going to oppose the slave trade. Right.
Yeah.
And fucking love that. Tricksters are so fucking cool, man.
I love that ability as well. I've said that before, talking about tricksters in the past, that it's like when you were talking about it in regards to an entity, something that is real and an entity, not a concept, not an ideology. this entity, it doesn't seem to have a form, a face, a name.
Mhm.
And I have said this before too. It becomes what you need to see. It shows itself to you in the way that you are going to be able to see it. And that has a lot to do with the person and the perceiver as well. But, just this idea that maybe it doesn't have like I can't describe to you what one looks like, because its whole existence is shape-shifting. I don't know. Like it's bopped from one, fairies, aliens, Bigfoot, like on, on and on and on down the line. It used to be gods, like down the line. Like, is it? I don't know. Is it like a concept that has become something that's real, but it doesn't have a body to call home? That's where my brain went.
That's an interesting thought.
It ties into much bigger theory, but yeah, that fascinates me.
Yeah.
That's something that could very much.
What's the I'm drawing a blank here. This just came up in a recent interview that you did.
Mhm.
It's not an egregore. It's a tulpa.
Tulpa, yeah.
Tulpas. So are
Right.
they, if we want to go the route of defending tricksters existing and not just being a tool, not just capital J on just being a tool of social expression and existence and explanation, right? But actual entities, right? And in our understanding of it has a conscious, and that's kind of where it ends with being able to describe them. Are they tulpas? Are they regional tulpas? Right. And a tulpa being a thought form. I just realized I never explained that to folks. Sorry. A tulpa being more or less enough of an emotional and mental commitment by humans. Or I guess I've never heard it applied to other animals, but by humans that brings something, manifests an actual conscious entity into existence. And it's a thought form. It's a thing that's been created strictly because of people's beliefs, right? Almost kind of like how we value money. If anything, it's kind of a really messed up. That's
that would be an egregore
abstract
created
but
by
simple
groupthink. So groupthink is going to create your egregore.
So thank you. Yeah.
The single person is going to create the
aggregated
tulpa or servitor.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, after my recent talk with Dave Zilla, he's a practicing witch, and he's also very much into AI, and he created his own egregore with the help of AI. Like, I do believe these to be very real, like thinking a being into reality. I think they are real. And that's interesting. You picked out tulpa specifically because out of all of the thought forms, tulpa is going to be the more likely out of all of them to kind of separate from its creator and become its own thing, thinking for itself, making decisions for itself, and causing some havoc, causing some chaos, which is interesting. Could be, was it the first person on Earth and they got lonely, so they made themselves a friend, and the trickster's been here ever since?
Could be.
We went so deep, you guys. All right.
I love it. Well, adding into a lot of that, and I think taking it from the physical realm to more of the cultural realm, for which, I did a lot of the study into the cultural realm, and the idea that most of the African tribes created their trickster god as animals, and if you look at Europe's trickster gods, they're most in general human being, like, human being, with like Loki, who's the Hermes is Brea, was
like
it
god of travel or something? Yeah.
They're all very human like, and a lot of the African tribes have a lot of animals, and from stuff that I've read, just the idea behind the tricksters feeling like they're part of the people that they come from, and that they're like against some sort of I think a lot of this moved towards it more when the slave trade happened, is that the animals became more parts of their lives because, again, like we talked about, their resistance and that these animals became very cunning and very like smart, very clever on ways to like fight in different ways. And then with you know, the Europeans, they're just like, oh, they're humans, they're just like us, we're over top, and they're more of like an, I don't know, trying to explain this idea that I was having, that a lot of Europeans don't have the, we use, I guess, the human as a archetype comparatively. Native Americans also use a lot more animals as well as in their spirits and theirs too. So I was just wondering if there could be some kind of connection between those two.
I think that comes with the general bastardization that comes with Christianity as a whole. So one of Christianity's early tenets, like its very early foundational tenets, is to separate people as much as possible from nature, and to get humans to see themselves as separate from the animal kingdom. Right? Like that's like standard, like you are unique, you are blah blah blah. I mean, go back to the Bible and it's like God gave man dominion over all things. Right? And separating out the human from the animal, where most of the world, I would say most of the sane world, never saw ourselves as separate from animals. Yes, we fit in with them and we have our own little fancy dance and communication, but at the same time, like, we recognize ourselves as like, we eat, sleep, fucking shit. You know, like, we are the same as every other living thing that we can see, and we're all inherently connected to one another. So when you get into like battling paganism, very broad stance, right? When you get into battling paganism, you have to differentiate yourself, right? When it comes to that literal war that was taking place, right? And one of those things is to say, no, I'm human. I'm better than all this other shit. I own all this other shit. I have rights to all this other shit. I can do whatever the hell I want to it, which justifies a whole host of atrocities for thousands of years. But that was a part of the weaponization of the Christian doctrine as a whole. So, I mean, to kind of get back a little bit to what you were saying at the beginning of your thoughts, Joey, you know, the Christian Bible is full of examples. Sorry, I'm forgetting some, but I hope folks that are in the chat who paid more attention in Sunday school than I did can bring them up. But it's full of examples of angels working as tricksters. Right? Like that is a literal thing. That is a literal thing. Is like, oh, they went up and they did this and they tried to convince him of this and they da-da-da-da-da and this and that and the other. And then for like kind of the big moves on things, it's Satan. It's the devil. It's the fallen angel. It's Lucifer
Behind
popping up. He's making the big moves, you know, but there's angels popping in. There's like, look at the story of Job, for instance. Right, like within Christianity, where the devil's like, oh, look at that guy over there. He's real into it, but his life's been so fucking easy. I bet he would give up on you if he made it hard. God fell for a trickster. He just started torturing Job and doing the worst possible things to him. He's like, yeah, see, he still believes me. And Satan's like, yeah, I don't know. It kind of seems like he's slipping. And he's just like, well, that's fuck it, kill his kids. And Satan's like, oh my God, you actually did that. I mean, you actually did that. Like, that's some classic trickster shit. Like, you are outsmarting the Almighty, which is something that tricksters do in all these creation stories, or a lot of them, where it's like you have Loki outsmarting, you know, like Odin and shit, and like coming in just being like, aha, you're the wisest. Oh yes, yeah, and like tricks them into shit. Like, this is classic.
Well, in Christian, like people who like who really get into the theology and like the history of Christianity and the history of the devil versus Satan versus Lucifer or whatever, like a Satan was it was an angel being used as a tool by God, right, to be put into positions to challenge his believers, to put them in positions to have to choose. Like, absolutely, like ultimate trickster. I love that you went there.
You know when God was like freaking torturing Job, Satan was just looking at him like, ugh, Damn, did he do that? Did he make him do
I
that?
wouldn't even do that.
That's shitty. That's pretty shitty.
That's pretty awful.
Did he just put raisins in
Yeah.
the tuna salad? Gee, oh God! Oh,
Damn. Instead of grapes? What is going on here? You guys ready for the good news?
Yeah.
So,
excited. Yeah.
Anansi still is a trickster god today in Hoodoo, and they use them as like help. Anansi, you can beckon Anansi to help you become a better storyteller. You can become a better performing artist, stand-up comedian, writer, producer, any kind of performance artist, musician,
Cow.
all for the small fee. And tell me if this sounds familiar, Gil and Kristen. For treats, liquor, cigarettes, or even just some stories, songs, or jokes. Just like our little buddy down in
El Pombero.
South America. Yeah.
See?
Yeah,
Dude.
damn it, Pombero, you get around.
Mm-hmm.
Anansi is
See?
Pombero. Also, I need more Anansi in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just bring out some treats, liquor, like some smokes. Pretty much just literally. Anansi's just like, quick, Kristen, smokes.
I got you, Anansi / El Pombero.
Yeah.
Honestly, my front porch constantly, I'm just trying to summon every goddamn entity that's out there. Because, like, I constantly, I don't sleep that much. I'll be up till 3 a.m. I'm drinking a beer. I'm lazy. I'll just, like, leave half a beer on my front porch with, like, a bunch of cigarette butts. I'm pretty much just, like, asking for it,
Mm-hmm.
It's basically how you summon
Nothing ever
fairies
comes.
as well. Just
And El
Little treats.
Pombero.
Mm-hmm.
And Anansi. And, just
and all, just
so
all of them.
spiritually lonely.
Mm-hmm. Well, fairies in
Need a
general are
friend.
tricksters, right? Fairies themselves are
Yes,
tricksters.
yes,
Mhm.
they are. Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
They
And they
are the-
live to trick.
There's
Such little shits.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
I know.
Sorry.
Such cutie pies. There's something I'm glad I'm taking this and I'm running with it. You brought up fairies.
Do it.
Something, dude, tricksters are fascinating. Just I know I've said that 40,000 times, and we're an hour and a half or whatever into this episode, an hour and 5 minutes into this episode, but something that fairies are known for, that so many other tricksters are known for, including El Pombero, is Donut. Why did you say Gil has bears? I do have bears. The bear that lives next to me, his name is Luffy. He's a
Seen the
sweetheart.
videos.
Yeah.
And can barely contain himself.
But barely keeping it together. No, so it's tricksters, along with being able to shapeshift, also have a notorious reputation for warping people's perception. Right? Their perception of, specifically, their perception of time. So making things feel very, very, very fast, making things feel very, very, very slow, or it feels like, it only took 10 seconds, but actually you were gone for 5 hours. Or you were gone for 5 hours, but it felt like 10 years. Right?
Yeah.
This is such a classic effect of tricksters, and fairies are known for this specifically, of doing shit like this to you. People with their encounters with Bigfoot have experienced similar shit. 100%. El
Big enough.
Pombero does this exact same shit entirely. And probably most famously, at least in my mind, aliens. Aliens do this shit like a motherfucker. They love to shit on time. They love to screw with people's perception of time. Even the argument about aliens existing plays a role of, can we travel faster than light? Like, even the argument around their legitimacy comes down to our perception of time and arguing with it, which the best argument about aliens being able to visit is that they're able to bend time and space and travel here.
Yes.
This is just a modern argument for a trickster. And I'm not saying it's not legitimate. I want to clarify that, because it's really easy when we externalize things away from our general English-speaking culture, which I'm assuming most folks listening to this are a part of the English-speaking culture, right? it's really easy to externalize things as far away in the past or foreign, and we kind of like label it as goofy and strange, but we are not coming with the subtleties of being raised within the culture, right? We're hearing 3-paragraph highlights. We don't understand how significant it is. And it's the same way that anybody hearing about aliens mocks and laughs at the concept of aliens. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's fucking stupid. I can't believe you believe in that. It's because they actually haven't taken time to dig into it and recognize that legitimacy, right? Or at least the potential legitimacy. But for this audience, for these audiences, I should say, all of our arguments, our most advanced arguments, the ones that are being presented to Congress right now, are based around trickster mythology. It's literally the bending of perception of time and space that goes with it.
Yeah.
It's shape-shifting down to the actual craft itself. Yeah. It's being able to imitate things, appear in certain areas. Even, and this is what's so fucking great, something tricksters are known for throughout time, and it's in that 75-80% of all of them bracket, is advancing society by pushing norms, thoughts and impressions and concepts around trying to understand UFO technology. Literally pushes our understanding of science and what we research and try to develop 100%. We are no different than folks who look at the Anansi or look at Velys or whatever. We are no fucking different. And I think that is so important to kind of slap ourselves. At least that's what I try to do when it comes to like Up and Barrel and other things where it's like, I don't want to get up on my high horse and be like, well, ho, ho, ho. It's like, no, I don't have the intricate knowledge. I'm not on that social level. And this is the same shit. It's everywhere. It's fucking everywhere. I don't know. That's my rant on that subject, but
that was awesome. Shit. I loved everywhere we went with that. That's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's that goes along with kind of how I have been thinking about it. And I think you and I probably arrived at the same place, but coming from different ends. Like I wasn't introduced to the trickster concept until my season on UFOs and aliens, and talking to somebody about abduction, and they introduced this to me. I was like, what does that mean? You, like, aliens are like this trickster entity? What does that mean? And just going from there, realizing that all these subjects past, all of these paranormal entities that I have talked about and never thought the wiser, they match, especially ones that go back in time, like fairies. That hooked me because that takes the concept of aliens and UFOs and it gives it historical depth. I can't see a difference between the stories of fairies and their abductions and their bending of time and their abilities and what is taking place in modern day abduction accounts. I do not see the difference anymore. I think they are the same thing. So, and then being able to, moving forward, tie that into Bigfoot accounts. And like Bigfoot, it's split down the middle between your flesh and blood apers and then the woo. But the woo side, when you look at the woo stories time and time and time again, it is matching the pattern. It fits with the same pattern that aliens fit, with the same pattern that fairies fit, of these trickster behaviors and traits. So that's how I came to it. I came from it from the history point. Like I just found that sucked me in. I was like, there's something here. There's something here that can explain. Like, it's the tie that binds.
What if fairy rings are just landing spots? Anyways, sorry, I just wanted to say.
I love this happiness that these connections are giving you guys. Honestly,
such nerds. Oh my god!
No, I love it.
The shit's fascinating. Like another thing too. It is. I'm taking it, Joey. Another thing too.
Do it.
Tricksters are also really fucking notorious. They're in that 8/10, 9/10. I forget where I'm at with my percentage examples here, but the majority of tricksters are also advocates, proponents, and violent defenders sometimes of nature. Basically, you disrespect nature, we'll disrespect you. That's a constant thing. What did every single UFO abductee come back and say with their messages about what aliens were trying to tell them. Seriously, go find a single fucking abductee anywhere and ask them. It's, y'all are gonna fuck up with nuclear weapons. Stop harming the planet. You're poisoning everything. Y'all need to chill the fuck out. We're trying to have peace here. Respect the earth. Don't fuck. Like, it's the same shit. It is the same shit. Down to another Trickster classic, which is fucking up travelers. Misdirecting travelers, people getting abducted out of their cars, people getting abducted on camping trips, people getting abducted on it's the exact same thing. 100%. There is no difference between somebody out there on a wagon who gets fooled by a fairy or some shit, or on a horse that gets fooled by a fairy or some shit, versus a semi-truck driver on a road in the middle of the night who just all of a sudden is like, what the hell just happened, and only remembers a bright light. There is no difference between these two experiences.
Agreed.
For the human, right? It's
Yeah.
And a lot of times they come back saying the same shit. Hey, we should really stop fucking things up.
Exactly.
Over and over again.
Yeah. I'd just like to interject real quick and just give a shout out to our sponsor, Quasga's Shutters and Blinds.
Shutters and Blinds.
If you don't want us to abduct you, just shut your blinds.
Yeah.
And I feel
official slogan. Sometimes you need blinds.
Mm-hmm. That's
Sorry,
all.
Joe.
That's it.
Keep
Okay.
going. Keep going.
Yeah.
Congratulations on your sponsor, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The
They've been with
sponsor,
us since
apparently.
episode 10, episode 11. Don't tell the AI that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's right. You know, I was just reading The Last Trickster God, wondering if I should go into it or if we should just go ahead into our talking points, because you guys are crushing it already. Should I go ahead?
I think
I don't
know. I've been covering my talking points throughout, so
Okay.
however you guys want to swing it.
I think you should save it, and I think we should cover it in the behind the scenes and post it on our
That sounds good.
various Patreons.
It will
What,
be
y'all
on
expected a
Patreon.
full episode? Guess what? It's a Trickster episode. You were never gonna get it. But
With
also,
Trickster
guess
gods.
what? Guess what? You heard Patreon. You thought you had to pay. You don't. We all
free
have
Treon.
free membership opportunities, and we got the links in our show notes. Thank you very much. So we just want a better way to communicate, because if you've made it this far in the episode, you obviously care for our rambling. Either you're rage listening, pleasure listening, or pleasure rage listening. If it's anything else, I don't want to hear what you're doing. Yeah, so obviously you give a fuck, and we'd love for you to give a fuck on a regular basis by staying connected to us at our various Patrons. Paranorm Girl, find her on Patreon. Black Hat Report, find us on Patreon. It's all there. But speaking of that long rant, you know what I would like to do with it? Another thing tricksters are known for: invisibility. All right, we haven't even touched on that shit.
Yeah.
Tricksters are notorious. They cannot just shapeshift and like become anything that they want. They can also completely become invisible, like aliens. This is
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, right? Across the board. Damn, you just delivered that with some eyes, like you saw, like you seen it.
I've been ready to fight for Bigfoot this whole episode.
You unsynced it. Nobody's fighting you.
Why do you think Bigfoot is a cryptid, or is not a cryptid and is more of a trickster? Why do you think that?
Well, I think
just lay it on me. Lay it on us.
The concept of Bigfoot itself, it is a cryptid. It is a cryptid.
Yeah.
I am not saying one side or the other is. I will say that the ape-only side, they do have a shit ton of proof. They have so much proof, more than enough proof, a mountain. But I've spoken to some people, or an erotica novel. I've spoken to enough people on the other side of the aisle and listened to their stories and listened to what draws me into that side is the pattern, and that it's consistent across the board. And so I'm not going to be closed-minded to that. I still need to dig even further into it. I am open to it. I'm not necessarily on the side that it is absolutely this trickster thing, but I do want to keep pushing it out there, putting it out there into the universe that, look at this, it matches, it belongs here. That's all.
Yeah. So if I can add this to maybe what you both are kind of putting forth in this, because Gil is real staunch and adding into this that, hey, maybe aliens are tricksters. Maybe tricksters are aliens. Maybe it's a mixture. Maybe. Go ahead. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not wrong. Cool. I'll keep going. And Kristen, you're talking about how cryptids or at least Bigfoot in this other area, which in some people say flesh and blood, some people say it could be an idea more than anything, a trickster. That maybe these tricksters are from. Can I posit this to go a little deeper? Are from another realm of existence, and they talk about angels being that, and that may be another dimension that we don't know of.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because they obviously, they don't abide by, that's the main distinction between us and them, is while they can be physical and exist in this physical dimension, they don't abide by the same rules.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's, suffice it to say, I think they are from another dimension, another place, something.
Well, into my thoughts behind it, I wonder, like where I think of it, and the idea of how I come through tricksters, is it a physical being? Because we always ask this too. It's like with different cultures and just studying the different trickster gods and goddesses and spirits in the different cultures, is that in some cultures it seems like there is a physical being in presence, with the indigenous, they talk about the coyote being that, and a coyote is a physical being, just like Gil talking about it earlier. Is the chicken or the egg? Was the coyote just the exact description of the trickster god, or did the trickster god inhabit the coyote to give it those characteristics? And that's kind of how I think of it. Or is it just like, with, I guess, in Norse mythology, they actually thought they were real. they thought that the gods were up on, looking down on them.
One quick easy note here: Wile E. Coyote, right? Wile E. Coyote is completely made up, is a caricature, right? Has a whole set of history, has a whole set of stories, culturally pretty well understood. I would say like 7 out of 10 folks are going to describe Wile E. Coyote the exact same way if you're talking to anybody in North America, right? Anybody that's been raised in North America, they're going to explain Wile E. Coyote the same way, based off of loosely literal fucking coyotes. So take this just because Wile E. Coyote, if coyotes went extinct and human history got wiped out, at least the long memory of it, and the bones were all destroyed, and they're like, oh, they had this character, and look at the depictions of him, and da 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 da, and this is how most folks described him over here, some folks described him over here, there might be an argument for whether or not Wile E., coyotes were real, basically, because they were like, well, no, look at, obviously, like, he was in these fights with the rotor. There's no possible way there was an animal throwing dynamite. Like, this is insane, so we have to look at history, especially when you're getting back into like 900 something AD, right? Where it's just like, you started off by saying, yeah, I could barely find shit on them. Yeah, we don't have shit on them. But there were people getting together to sign under oath with their name. This was culturally understood, culturally relevant in that way. It was that was significant across different regions, right? But it begs the question. So Wile E. Coyote is not literally real, just a symbology, a representation, a caricature. Right? Coyotes are real. The cultural memory is real, right? That cultural memory can get faded and changes on person to person. What does that mean for gods just in general, right? So does that mean that, again, which came first, the chicken or the egg? I think that has a lot to do with just our place in time and realization. because
True.
we're able to, at this point in history, in 2,000 years, I don't think we will be able to, at this point in history, we're able to say coyotes existed before Wile E. Coyote, right? But in 2,000 years, people might look back and be like, I don't know, it's still debated on whether or not there was a wild canine running around. Like, they might literally say that. And just how we look at, like, you know, this crazy bird dragons that, or, you know, the spiders with human arms and legs and shit like that. Like, these, we have to look at it the same fucking way. I don't know. I just don't think humans have gotten any smarter or dumber throughout history. I think we've pretty much coasted on the same level of stupidity. Which goes to show in the fact that we have to keep relearning the same historical lessons, like in the 1930s, but now in America. It's a different story. I think
fun times.
Yeah, but this is hard to fucking. It's tricksters, man. Tricksters are fucking tricksters all the way around, because their inherent nature says you can't prove me, bitch, but everybody talks about me. Like, you ain't got a photo of me, but everybody can describe me. You don't know what I can do, but everyone knows what I've done. And it's just like, God damn, trickster. Why? I have no name, but everyone has a name for me. It's just like, stop it already. Everything about it. This came up with El Pombero, where it's like, it drove me fucking insane. Again, please, folks, anybody near to me, anybody that loves me, reach out to me. I'm in need of help. Don't let me look into tricksters again, because I go insane. I'm too literal of a person when it comes to research. And I had to literally flip to fucking tabloids, to the sensational clickbait articles, in order to research tricksters, because in the true trickster fashion, the most illegitimate thing was the most legitimate thing. And like, which was like 5 days after the episode was supposed to be released, I'm like, I understand what I should do now. Because the historical records fucking sucked, and they all disagreed with each other, / the sources weren't reliable, because it was a bunch of fucking Christians coming in and being like, I don't know, Craig said it was brown, whatever, anyways, we killed him. Like, it was all bullshit. You know, it was hard to, I was like, I don't want to listen to this guy, he killed Craig. I love Craig. So
The best.
But in order to get this understanding of something that everybody knows about but isn't well documented, I had to go into clickbait articles, which are great for having one very strong quote that they just expand upon afterwards, and there's a bunch of bullshit added to it. And that was the only way I could get direct quotes from folks within this culture, within the society, where folks experience, live with, and understand El Pombero. And I was like, you fuck El Pombero, you son of a bitch. To trust the worst thing in order to find the most legit evidence, which is the brilliance of tricksters, right? Just as a goddamn whole. And this comes back to throw it back to Kristen. This comes back to Bigfoot. Every Bigfoot,
Does.
Bigfoot nerd, Bigfooter, if you will, loves good casting of a Bigfoot print.
Oh, yes.
Every one of them does. This is, you know, safe to say, universal. Yet they're interdimensional, right? Yet they're shifting between dimensions, but they're leaving physical traces. This goes back to the trickster, you know, just existence, where it's just like even within the culture, it's this desperate need to show physical evidence while acknowledging this extratemporeal type of like existence around things, where it's just like, we've got the footprints, you know, everybody sends off hair samples, but you never really hear about them afterwards. But but there's always this fight for the physical, but complete lack of physical at the same time.
Well, that's where you run into your dividing line there, and that just goes back into people desperately trying to conceptualize things and stick them into a box so that I can understand it with my stupid human brain. And that's where you run into the line that divides. Like, you know, the footprints, they're awesome. The people that are on that 8 only side, it is a physical creature. it is a physical creature. It's an undiscovered
Why
ape.
not?
It's a
Mhm.
descendant of what's the word? Gigantopithecus.
Big
I
word.
don't know. It's a little harder to explain that physical footprint if you're on the other on the woo side. Just that
Mhm.
they're physical while they're here. They abide by our rules while they're here. I don't know.
Trickster
It's
gods
fun to
make an
think about,
impact
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
on our reality while they're here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They sure do.
Then dip the fuck out real quick. You know? It's, you know, in the same way I could say the word lion. But what does a lion symbolize?
A lion,
Royalty.
Yeah.
Royalty, nobility.
justice, wisdom,
Yeah.
respect,
Aslan.
upper
Bravery.
class,
Yeah.
Courage,
strength.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Strength, things like that. These are completely understood. Lions still exist.
Mhm.
You know, just because we have this shared, agreed upon like symbology behind it, doesn't mean that lions don't exist. The same way that we have a shared understanding of a cartoon doesn't mean coyotes don't exist. You know, and tricksters play this exact spot, which is so perfect for them. They're that thing that's always going to get away, but be right in front of you. You know,
Mhm.
bastards, motherfuckers. I love them so much.
I
I
think
would get
the
a tattoo of a
idea-
trickster, but I don't know what to get.
I think El Pombera for sure. I think the
Is
idea
that a large
of
mole? I need to go
Just
to a
El Pombera.
dermatologist. Is that a tattoo of two partially deflated basketballs
Like
inside of
basketballs
a
stuffed
black,
into each other.
black pillowcase? Why, yes, it is.
Yes, it is. You know me.
Sorry, Joe.
I always think of the idea of like, and when we talk about the physical, just like with Bigfoot, and like if we talk about tricksters in general, and that the cultural part of it is that I would love so much, and I think a lot of people would love to go back into that like time period with that culture and be like, is this a physical thing in your life every day? And for some of it, I imagine they'll say, it mattered to us. It might not be physical, but it might just be just as real because of the way that these stories or the way that these things affect how we live our lives every day. You know, like you talked about pushing up against the boundaries of life, and depending on which culture, which area of the world, some of them have different ways of how they view their tricksters. Like we talked about, I'm trying not to talk about the indigenous peoples one because we'll talk about that in the behind the scenes. But exactly. So there's your note to follow us to get the behind the scenes too. But talking about like Velys, and that it was more of like not really bad, but it still wasn't looked on as good. You know, Velys wasn't like a great theme. But then we talked about like Anansi, you know, Anansi was like became like almost like a champion of the people, you know, and that it was also part of it. So I think it just changed how tricksters are viewed, as how real they are, is where who's viewing them. And just like you guys talked about your tulpas, is the same idea, is that if you view them more as real, you can create that identity into reality. But if you view it as less real, it goes away. I mean, just the idea of freaking, you know, believe in me, you know, like Tinkerbell. When you're trying to believe in Tinkerbell to believe in her, you got to keep her real, you got to believe in her. You know, Santa Claus, you know, if you watch Elf, you know, that believability to get him to fly. So it's like, I think of that idea is it just depends on the culture, how real life it is, you know, and putting it into animals makes it even more real, because because we don't really know what animals are thinking in general. Like nobody has come up with the moment of a animal translator, so being able to translate what an animal, not yet but getting there, about what an animal's thinking, so you can inject what your thoughts are onto that animal, or your characteristics, even if they have some similar characteristics, like we talk about the coyote. So I always think about the idea of like how real something is depends on the culture that's creating it or viewing it, you know. And for me, that's such a cool thing to see, is like it just matters in their everyday life compared to ours. So it would be amazing to go back and be like, how real are these stories that you're telling? Like let's talk about the indigenous people. How real are these stories you're talking about? Like you're telling your kids over a campfire, like this, came in and stole a coyote's I can't think of the exact story at the moment, not reading it, but came in, basically stole the coyote's like food and tricked him. How real was that? Did you see a coyote and that happened? You're just like, dang, that's pretty tricky. That's a tricky coyote.
Dingo came and took my baby. Yeah.
Dingo came and took my baby. So I always like that idea, is that Seinfeld for the win, is that it's just real compared to the culture that you look at,
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But at the same
What's
time,
real is
we never fucking know if it's applying symbology to something that exists. We don't.
because we're not there.
Sorry, Kate, I didn't mean to cut you off, but what were
no,
you
no,
gonna
no.
say?
I was just going to add on to that it's what's real seems to be whatever the group of people is entirely focused on. What's important to them,
Mm-hmm.
whether symbologically or ideologically or in their physical world. What's the most important thing to them? What do they focus on?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting to see
fight you
their.
about that behind the scenes.
Oh, girl. There was a story which I'm going to tell behind the scenes as well, but we'll give them a little teaser. Painted Rock. I seem to recall the story at Painted Rock, and I feel so bad I cannot remember the tribe. D, if you're in the chat, help me out. There was this human origin story about how humanity was actually created. And there are these paintings on the rock, and you can still see them today, of a daddy Bigfoot, a mommy Bigfoot, and their little baby Bigfoot. And it's just, it goes through this whole story about how all animals got together to create humans. And I do recall there was something to do with good night, Alex, something to do with a coyote in that story being part of that creation process. So I'll tell that backstage. Mm-hmm.
It seems like that the Painted Rock tribe was probably in Arizona in the Southwest.
No, I wanted to say it's in the north. It's in the Northwest. Oh gosh, Dwayne, help me. It's in the Northwest somewhere, or California. Shoot,
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, please look it up. The Painted Rock, and it's crying Bigfoot.
Damn.
Central Texas.
Because they're sad. In Texas.
No wonder they ghosted.
Oh, man.
I mean, I feel like it was probably many tribes that they have a bunch of. I'm just looking at Painted Rocks in general, but I'm going way off.
Just naming off all the Painted Rocks.
I'm looking at
Finding rocks with googly eyes, like
Texas.
Yeah, apparently
it's been a long time since I read that story, so
yeah,
I blame my old brain. But yeah,
25-year-old brain.
My whole 25 years. Yeah. Any final thoughts? Did we want to take it backstage for the rest of
I think we should
our chat?
We should take it backstage.
Yeah.
I think we're cool with that. We got
Where is
little
it?
bit of stuff.
you crushed it. You did a great
Was it
job
in
this episode. Thank you so much.
Thank
Seriously, you
you.
really did. And
y'all rock.
thank you to us. Thank you, K-Boos. You're killing it from Paranorm Girl Pod. And me and Gil are Black Cat Report. We are just
Hello.
normally here. This is what we do. You know what? We do like each other. Sometimes.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, just a bit. But K-Boos, do you want to give them some of your info?
Sure. You can find and follow the show on all socials at Paranorm Girl Pod across the board. You can also catch bi-weekly episodes of the show on all listening platforms and catch all episodes of the show on YouTube in video format, YouTube, and sometimes Twitch.
Hell yeah. Gil, you want to give us our information for K-Boos?
Sure. Black Cat Report. It's pretty easy to find us. There's not a lot of things. If you're finding literal reports of black cats, that's not us. But the podcast dedicated to paranormal, true crime, strange history, and of course, UFOs. That's us. And we do a show once a week. It's supposed to be on Sundays, but ever since the Time Traveler series we did, what is time? But find us pretty much anywhere. And if you don't find us somewhere, reach out to us. Contact at blackcat.report, and we'll send you a free sticker. We got a running bounty on that. So
We do.
And K-Boos,
All right.
thank you for having us on your channel.
Yeah. Thank
And thank you guys for coming on my show. This was awesome. We should collab more often.
100%
Yes, we
fan.
should. Yeah. I don't know if you want to thank the Patreon listeners or not.
Yes.
You can thank yours. We'll just switch them up.
No,
for
no, no.
K-Boos.
Go for it.
No. All right.
I don't
Well,
have my list.
Oh.
Well, we'll thank them with the exclusive content that's coming up next.
There we
By
go.
the way,
Sounds good, yeah.
hit us up on Patreon, patreon.com/ I'm assuming Paranorm Girl. It might be something else. I guarantee you it's the only one coming up for Paranorm Girl. And patreon.com / Black Cat Report. It also might be something else. This is a Trickster episode. Haven't you learned anything? But point is, type it in, you'll find us. And if you don't find us, how the hell did you find this video? We love you all. Bye.
Bye.